Welcome to the channel. I'm Caldwin and today we're going to be taking a look at a game called Sunkenland. This is basically a Waterworld inspired survival game. It's single player and co-op, so let's take a quick look and see what it's like. So you start off, you've got to create a new character. It's a very basic character creation. You have a few different options. I mean, I don't think this is going to win any awards for graphics, but I don't think there's a gigantic team working on the game. It is currently in early access. The devs are slow at releasing updates by the looks of it, but they have a big one on the horizon where they're going to be adding a lot more boats and kind of mounted weapons for the boats into the game. So I guess starting a single player game is kind of similar to starting a multiplayer game as well. You get a lot of different options for the server, how things will spawn and how you can respawn and the loot renewal and so on. But yeah, let's just crack on with the default settings so we can have a quick look at what this game's like. As I mentioned, the game's in early access, so we're going to be seeing some clunkiness here, like when you spawn. It kind of spawns you in the air and you plop down into the sea. I did have to increase my mouse sensitivity in game because it was very low. But once I did that, it seemed fine. So yeah, you're basically on a world that's been flooded. I guess post-apocalyptic world, so underneath the ocean there's all these buildings and stuff for you to explore and to loot. Gathering stuff is pretty easy. Most of the time it's just you just hold F and you gather it. There's a few things you'll need to use your axe to chop up, like trees or wooden objects you find in the water. And we'll quickly look at the world map here as well. Basically, the world has a lot of, like, I guess, points of interest that you can go to, you can find. I'm not sure if that's all the points of interest on that map there. There might be more to discover as you go along, but when you start, those are the ones you know about for sure. When you spawn, you are basically spawned near this uninhabited island. I guess that's on by design, so you can safely build a base here and just start expanding out from this point. You do start out with a very basic axe, so you can actually cut these trees down and get a lot of wood. There is wood that you can find on the ground as well, but the trees obviously give a lot more. And there's certain things under the water as well that'll give a lot of wood. So it's worth exploring, because wood's kind of the main resource that you'll need to start off with. So on the starter island, there's a couple of little loot boxes you can grab that'll give you some basically starting resources just to get you going. But on every island you go to, there'll be little loot boxes you can open to grab what's in there, as well as enemy NPCs that you can kill and loot them as well, and obviously resources in general just scattered around the islands. But we'll see that in a bit. Building in this is pretty straightforward, very similar to other survival games. You're all pretty used to this by now, I guess. I guess it's based on a kind of grid system where you place down little square areas like foundations that you can build onto. Yeah, we've all seen this before, so it's pretty straightforward. What's nice about this is that it's instant. When you place something down, it is instantly built. You don't have to wait for it. You don't have to hit it with a hammer or anything. It's just straight there. And I like that method of doing things in a single player / co-op game like this. I don't see the point of having to wait for something to be built. Or it's just a waste of time, really, that's not needed in these kind of games. It's different if it was like a competitive PvP game. That makes sense to have it, but not for something like this. One thing I did notice with the building is, as you can see here, the snapping of certain items doesn't work too well. Like I couldn't build those steps anyway. But the snapping of the walls, this seems perfectly fine. It was just those steps I couldn't quite figure out how to get them to snap properly. Yeah, generally building seems to work perfectly fine. Resources respawn on your island, so after you pick them up, they will respawn after a bit. And then here we have the crafting window. So you can obviously craft basic items on the left-hand side with the resources that you've gathered. Again, similar to other games, so you get wooden spears, you get bows, you get an upgraded hatchet, bucket to actually collect seawater, which we'll see why in a bit. You get your standard basic starting armor and resources and other guns and so on that we can't see yet. But you actually kind of unlock those as you go later on in the game, which we'll see. And then, this is the build menu where you can actually build components for your building. As you can see, there's traps and barricades and stuff like that you can set up, which is important because your base does get raided by NPCs. There is a little mission that you follow, like you can see here, just asking you to build different parts of your main base, I guess. And then the factions, which seems to be the interesting part of this game. There are different factions on the different islands controlling different parts of the world. And I guess you're at war with them all to start with. I don't know if you can make friends with them or if they are permanently hostile or not. I've not got that far into it. The few islands that I do get to in this video, there's only hostiles on there. So a lot of the resources that you need for like building your base and the different crafting stations can only be found underwater. And I think that's probably one of the main pulls of this game, is that there's a lot to explore, but most of it is under the water. And it does look like you can build scuba gear later on, once you get the resources to do so. Basically, there's scuba tanks, so you can go underwater with the air, and then there's a basically a crafting station that allows you to refill the air in the oxygen tanks. And then there's flippers and a few other things you can kind of build to assist your movement speed under the water. Because like I mentioned, most of the world is underwater and there's a lot to explore down here. And I believe you can build bases underwater the later you get into the game. But I haven't got that far myself yet. Cooking food is pretty straightforward in this. You can find food laying around the place, crabs that you can kill, fish that you can kill, and so on. Mushrooms. Most of it can be cooked on this basic grill. Doesn't take too long to cook either, and you can't burn the food or anything like that. So it's pretty easy and straightforward. And I think that's what this game is kind of like, really. It's the crafting side of things and the survival side of things is there. And yeah, you can die if you don't eat and you don't drink, but it's not the hardest part of the game. For me, I kind of like that in my survival games, because I hate the survival games where, you burn through all your water and your food within a couple of minutes, and you're just constantly eating. I just don't like those. So this kind of appeals to me a bit more. And yeah, once it's finished, you just take the food and put more on and add more wood. That's it. There's also research in the game, and this is how you get your hands on more advanced gear. So building it obviously just requires different types of materials. You have to go scavenge, and then once you've built it, you can actually unlock different things in the game, including boats and other vehicles, as well as different stations and different traps and weapons. As I mentioned, there's a few different vehicles in the game. Here we get to build basically the first boat, the paddle boat. And yeah, you can sit in it. You can take someone with you. You can store stuff in it. And yeah, look how fast you go. 40, 50 kilometers an hour. This guy is definitely not skipped leg day. Look at that, 80 kilometers an hour. Awesome. But I guess it allows you to move around the world pretty fast, at least. So there are many different islands and points of interest to kind of explore in this world, above and below the ocean. And as you get close, it just pops up in the right-hand corner how many enemies and what faction are basically in control of this island. If some of the early AI you kind of come across, like basically zombie type things, they're not great. But these guys have weapons, and they're actually more reactive. So as soon as they spot you, they will start coming for you. And with melee weapons and ranged weapons. Now, the melee combat's pretty basic. It's just attack and block. And ranged will consist of different types of ranged weapons, like bows, crossbows, and you do get guns and stuff later on. And I believe one of the guys in here actually does have a gun as well. The only way to heal yourself, from what I've seen so far, is with food. You do have bandages that stop bleeding if you do start bleeding. But the main way to kind of heal yourself is food. There might be med packs later on, I don't know, I've not got that far myself. The combat feel itself is decent enough. I guess it feels similar to kind of Rust, I suppose, or early Rust, at least. Works well enough. There's nothing wrong with it. You can do you can do headshots and do more damage, and so on. But obviously here you can see I'm taking quite a bit. There was a bit too much in here for me to fight, and now I've run out of arrows as well. So I'm going to try and get to this guy and kill him with my melee weapon, but yeah, I don't think it's going to go well. Now, if I had built a bed, I would have been able to respawn on the bed, but I've only got the option for a random respawn. And this will respawn you in a random area close to where you died, basically. And in this case, in the middle of the ocean. So when you die, you do lose everything that you have in your backpack, but you keep all the gear that you have equipped. And you just have to go back to try and get your body back if you can. Of course, you're very low on food and very low on health as well. So going back into that zone with the enemies is going to be hard work. The ocean is also not free of danger. As you can see, there's sharks here and they will attack you. And obviously I'm pretty low on health as well, so I'm going to have to try and get him with my spear if I can. But yeah, he does high damage. And I die again. One last thing I quickly wanted to show before I end this video is that your base does get randomly attacked every now and then. As you can see here, I got a message saying my base was under attack, and there's a couple of zombies randomly attacking my base. And they will destroy it and anything you built. So you've got to get back to defend, basically. And luckily these are only some like easy to kill zombies, but I guess it gets harder and harder the further you get into the game. Now, all the NPCs you'll kill in the game will drop loot, so it's always worth checking what they got, because they can definitely have some decent resources for you. So that's a quick look at Sunkenland and what it's like basically starting out as a new player in it. Now, there is multiplayer as well if you want to play with a few friends, so it's worth checking that out. But generally, it's quite an easy survival game to get into. You know, it's not too harsh, the survival side of things. Crafting seems nice. The world looks pretty nice, even though, you know, it might not have the best graphics in the world, but it looks decent, especially underwater. There's lots of different islands and underwater points of interest to explore, so there's a lot to do so far. And like I mentioned, the devs seem to be slow with their updates, but they do get the updates out, and they are working on updates as well. Their next one looks like it's going to be quite a large kind of naval expansion with a couple of new boats and some weapons for those boats themselves. But yeah, my usual kind of warning, this is early access. If you're not into early access games, then give this a miss until it's released. But if you are looking for a new survival game to try out with a few of your friends, then this might be worth a look. It's got decent enough reviews on Steam, and it does seem to be a decent enough active player base for a kind of unknown game like this. I just want to say thanks to everyone for watching. If you do want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to work my way through my Steam library, releasing a video once or twice a week. So yeah, I will see you all in the next video.